As folks are arriving, let me welcome you to our candidate conversation on financing Philadelphia's future. We're very pleased to have Comptroller candidate Alexandre Hunt with us today. Before we begin, I'd like to remind folks that the recommendation that we have for your best viewing is to use speaker view to put questions in the chat. We're not sure that we'll get to those questions. We'll try. If we can't answer them on air, we'll try to answer them off air. And use the chat also if you are not already on the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition's forum listserv, so that we can keep you appraised of additional candidate conversations and other activities of the forum. We're very pleased to have Alexandra with us today. She is a candidate for the city controller and has a background in data science and in public health, and is passionate about the future of Philadelphia and what she can do for that as the next controller. Welcome, Alexandra, and can you give us your vision for how you would intend to take the office of controller, in addition to the responsibilities and the specific duties, implement a vision for improving Philadelphia?
Yes, I can share all that. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. The main reason that I'm running for city controller is because I deeply believe in a well-being economy. And what that is the investment into people and into communities and their well-being, with the belief that if people are thriving, the economy will thrive. And we haven't seen that at a local level, and we certainly aren't seeing that in a national level. Our communities are being divested instead of invested in, and people are overall not in a state of well-being. So this is one of the big issues. Capitalizing a public bank is a way that we can build community wealth. And last session, this legislation was passed for a public bank to be created. And then it kind of sat there and there was no further movement. And we missed an opportunity that would have acted, especially in this moment, as a bit of a protective shield from what's happening at the national level, as we're seeing two major banks collapse. This could have done a little bit to shield Philly from those repercussions.
Thank you, Alexandra. This is Deb Figart. I'm an economist. I really appreciate your focus on economic and community well-being. And without people, there would be no economy. So great for you. And I appreciate your focus on reversing disinvestment. As a group, the Public Bank Coalition has three key questions to cover in our brief time together. All of them are directly related to the city controller's auditing role to improve financial operations and improve the use of public resources. So question number one, as you know, economic injustices are rampant in Philadelphia. Black and brown residents, business owners, and neighborhoods are struggling to access credit and investments. As you know, affordable housing is disappearing and poverty rates in our city are higher than the national average. So in general, what role do you envision for yourself as city controller in combating economic injustices here in our city? Let's begin there, and then I'll have some specific follow-ups, please.
Well, I think to tie it into specifically a public bank, a public bank can offset a long history of banking discrimination that Black and brown families and small business owners have faced, where they're not able to get the loans necessary to start their own small business. And this would be a way to combat that and to build community wealth. This is a country of small businesses. There's also reports that the controller can run to make sure that there is an equitable distribution of wealth across Philadelphia. And I think just to point out in the role of city controller, a power that is often overlooked, and in the past, controller was utilized more frequently, but I intend to utilize frequently, is that there is a power of subpoena with any sort of bank statements or missing accounting documents that different government agencies haven't been as forthcoming with in the past.
Thank you for that. Yes, running reports and subpoena power. Along those lines, let me ask, would you audit the Treasury's oversight of the financial institutions that hold city funds and deposits? And would you consider ensuring that city funds go to those financial institutions that are performing best with respect to their Fair Lending and Community Reinvestment Act obligations? Thank you.
Yes, audit certainly. And then I think with the performance, what is considered performing best, that has to be done with a lens of equity. But as long as it meets that lens and there's a removal of any sort of bias or unequal distribution of resources, then yes.
Thank you for that.
Alexandra, to follow up that question, excuse me Jeff, for a second. How do you envision a partnership between the controller, the treasurer, and the financial authority to help to not only enforce the letter, but the spirit of the Community Reinvestment Act, and to help to shape a financial ecosystem in Philadelphia that is more equitable and welcoming?
I think two aspects that I'm running on can help do that, help build that relationship. And one is the Office of Quality Assurance that I would like to create in the city controller's office, that is with intention to remove any bias from city controller and to hold the fiscal watchdog in check as well, but to also operate as a place of information and assistance for other government agencies where it can have that proactive relationship. So it's not just the financial police officer going after missing money, but also just an information place of, this is how we can work together, and this is how to properly do this, and more of that friendly relationship. And then also, I would like to create a dashboard where you can see where taxpayer money is going, and the public bank can be included in that dashboard, where it's very transparent of how money is moving and where it's going in and out, and keep accountability in check that way.
So as a follow-up, in your dashboard, we talked about the Department of Treasury. Thank you for answering that. In your dashboard, would there be other departments or other functions in city government that you would audit or issue reports on in your first year or two in order to improve the city's financial operations with an aim toward economic justice, local economic development, and the community wealth building you talked about?
Okay, there were a couple parts to that question, so let me make sure that I understood all of them. You're asking, will there be additional functions to the dashboard, as well as are there additional reports that?
Yes, looking at other departments and agencies besides Treasury, what other things might you audit and look into? For example, would you look into commerce to see how businesses and which businesses are being supported or not supported in the city? Other agencies, other departments, What might you do in the first 2 years in terms of those investigations?
Well, my day one investigation is into the decades old known financial leak through the sheriff's office. And that's something that I know is going to take a little bit of time and a lot of muscle and courage. Um, Another thing that I would like to look into that I was recently discussing with a friend of mine is nonprofit status, and if nonprofit status is being awarded correctly for different groups within Philadelphia.
Thank you. And then taking the larger macro bird's eye view of the city budget and where it is spending over $5 billion a year, how might you prioritize in the controller's role? How might you prioritize local and underserved economic development needs in the city?
I think one of the ways to do that is through schools, and to make sure that not only, well, that schools are properly funded in terms of equipment and staffing, but also that buildings are safe and respectable for children to be going to school in. I think that's really crucial for economic development. It is it's macro and it's long term, but it's pretty major. Another area is in both homeownership and foreclosure rates as well. So looking into property management and taxes as well.
Thank you for that. One final question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Peter to explore some related issues. So as controller, you would also have the responsibility to audit a variety of economic development authorities in the city according to the Home Rule Charter. So do you have any standards or expectations that you might put into play with respect to transparency and democratic engagement and whether they're doing their jobs? The economic development authorities in the city, like the PIDC, and then hopefully the new Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. What would you look for in terms of your standards and expectations for those economic development bodies?
I mean, I think it's not a lofty expectation to expect full transparency of money in, money out, and all records of where money is going. And that's something that I will, as city controller, I'll use power of subpoena when I have to get that, and courage and muscle.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Peter Winslow.
Yeah, then Alexander, you certainly have full transparency from the financial authority, because that's one of the principles that we're holding up. As the controller, controller serves ex officio in several functions, including as a member of the board on the gas commission and on the city pension funds. So how do you see your function on those board assignments for such things as the transition of PGW from a society that's reliant on fossil fuels to one that is more sustainable using renewable energy and energy efficiency, and for the pension funds to invest pension fund money into the public financial authority and ultimately the public bank?
I think you helped me a little there, but yes, traditionally the pension funds have not been invested in areas that are beneficial to workers and are also sometimes risky. What is happening with the recent bank collapses is in Silicon Valley Bank, PA public school employees' pension funds were invested there. And instead of investing into outsourced banks or into Wall Street, we can be investing into a public bank that's going to see that capital gain at the local level and build the local economy. We can also invest in places that are not union busting, which I know that from the hospitality union, Unite Here, that is something that they've had to work through with the comptroller, but to invest in renewable energy and to create a just transition from Philadelphia Gas Works to Philadelphia Green Works.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Because it's topical, can we speak a little bit about the experience that has taken place elsewhere in the country with the Silicon Valley Bank being taken over by the FDIC and so forth, things that you see as systemic, where the public bank can provide a more stable environment, where the investments that are made and the practices and policies are not looking for profit so much as for public benefit, and just don't go into speculation and derivatives and other ways of just maximizing profit.
Exactly. And what a well-being economy measures is outcome, not profit. And I think that's a very different lens than what we're used to looking at as Americans. As we look for the profit, we push productivity for profit gain instead of for a well-being outcome that we're looking for. So I think that we can look into an improvement in childhood poverty. We can look into an improvement in the number and diversity and wealth of Black-owned businesses, and measure that way instead of profit through what a Philadelphia public bank can fund.
So does that mean that as controller, you will be working with others perhaps to develop metrics, non-financial metrics, as well as financial metrics, to measure the benefit that accrues from a program, as opposed to just return on investment?
Absolutely. And I think that's where my public health background is pretty major, is that's how I think that measurements should be made, not just financially, but are people doing better? Is a community improving?
So you'll be looking at various policies and programs of the city and of other institutions that serve the city as a way of developing those metrics and applying them?
Looking at other programs as a way of developing those metrics? Is that?
Yeah, and applying them.
I think that actually this work can be done through the city controller's office. There is a not funded, but an underplayed role in the city controller's office for policy analysis, and that there can be a few more devoted folks to specifically looking at programs and policies through the lens of the outcome, not the profit.
And do you see particular areas where this would be important for the city? I know you've mentioned public health and education. Is other housing and other priorities that you would be pursuing?
Housing, public safety, healthcare, all of it, all of the aspects that impact a person's well-being, and they all intersect with each other. So it's hard to just dissect and pick one or two.
Well, the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition, along with Black clergy and many other organizations, are supporting the 57 Block Initiative that was originated, I would say, by our District Attorney Larry Krasner. Do you envision a role for the controller and the 57 block initiative?
Can you familiarize me briefly with the 57 block initiative?
Sure. This is essentially to recognize that there's a correlation between gun violence and redlining and Black neighborhoods and economic capacities and opportunities, that they're all interrelated, and to take a systemic approach to addressing these problems rather than just draconian increasing enforcement.
Absolutely. And the unfortunate side of that is that when a community is in pain, we want that quick fix and that knee-jerk reaction to quickly make it stop because it hurts so bad. But this has been a long time coming, and we have to think of the long-term solutions that are going to make this stop from the root, and that's how you do it.
Great. We have some questions from the chat. Deb, rather than jumping in, has put her question, could your dashboard include those wider metrics about community economic well-being?
Yes, absolutely. That can be measured as well. And I believe that data and transparency should be in abundance. And that's something that I would love to be as forthcoming as possible so that other groups can take up advocacy for different issues with more data and better informed data that they have. So yes.
And Pamela is asking a question that's involved in that what is involved in developing and using the new metrics, and whether there needs to be some authorization, or if these are suggestions that are made, or something that we would attempt to use universally.
For the dashboard?
The dashboard, how you're conceiving the new metrics and how they would be presented on the dashboard.
This is Deb jumping in just for a second. So I think what we're asking here is, does the controller have the power to do that in her office with her staff, with the website of the controller's office? Can you get that out there, or do you need authorization for that?
You don't need authorization for that. It is something that the controller can do, and that previous controllers have run on but have not completed. And it's going to be a massive data mining project. And it's going to involve tracing down every single dollar, but it's going to provide a lot of information that a lot of Philadelphians are aware of, but don't actually have the evidence of, that money's going missing here, money's being overspent here, and it'll put it all in one place. It will be unpopular with the establishment, popular with the people, and that's my life goal.
Following up on that, we have a question as to what pushback you have received, or do you anticipate receiving, from Chamber of Commerce and other entrenched establishments within the city, and how do you intend to contend with all that pushback that you have or will receive?
Yeah, there will be a lot of pushback, and I'm running for this with the anticipation of doing all this, knowing that I think that they're going to come after me at a personal level, but I also think that they're going to really challenge the controller's office with, how do you plan on enforcing that? And that's where it does become tricky. So there's a couple of different levels that a controller can take to push a government agency to act with accountability. And one is hiring a private lawyer to sue them. Another is potentially working with the DA, and another is getting the mayor on board with the different things that we're pushing for, and having the mayor back us up as an enforcer.
Alexandra, you mentioned that you're expecting personal attacks, and if how do you respond to criticism that you don't have specific experience in auditing and accounting? How do you counter those criticisms that might be leveled at you?
Well, I think that it's really important for people who are going after every single dollar to know the value of every single dollar. And that's something that I'm certainly aware of with my own life experiences. I have known empty bank accounts, and I've been financially independent since I was a teenager. I also am well aware of the capabilities of folks already in the office of the city controller, and that they are very qualified in doing their jobs. And I really believe in them. And we're going to be working together in the direction that we want the city controller's office to go in, which is the vision that I've been sharing with all of you, and they can perform the audits that they have been hired to perform.
Thank you. As a former, as a CPA and former auditor, I agree that you're in an executive position and your staff is very competent staff. Deb, do you have any follow-up questions?
I do not. I want to thank you for your time. This has been really informative. And on behalf of the Public Bank Coalition in Philadelphia, I thank you. Anyone else?
Now, I know we have just about 2 minutes left, but in that 2 minutes, Alexander, is there any final word that you would like to have that we can share with the public?
I just want to thank you all for the work that you've done, and that this public bank is so important to Philadelphia and to creating the better future that we all want to see. And I know that's taken a lot of grit from all of you. So thank you for doing this. And I'm really looking forward to being in a position to help this become real and to capitalize this bank and to see Philly's wealth grow. So I'm glad to be here, and thanks for facilitating this conversation.
Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate your talking to us. And we thank all the folks that have taken time from their busy schedules to be part of our conversation. We thank all of you as well. And we invite everybody to come back to Financing Philadelphia's Future. That's a lot of futures. Please come back, and please come back for the additional candidate conversations that we will have as this primary election season proceeds. Thank you all so much.